Good morning, Braxton. Hey, I just wanted to go over a few things. So I ran some numbers on some of our past campaigns and our current campaigns to kind of get a ballpark of our target marketing for realtors. This is only going to work for realtors, these numbers that we're looking at. But let me kind of go over this real fast with you. So I've got a couple different polls here. So I did kind of I tracked just going into, let's just pull any one of these. I went in here and tracked how many leads that we pulled out of this campaign, which we pulled 11, 12 campaigns, right? Or leads out of this. And so I put that on this sheet here for spring of 2021. We got 12 leads, right? And this is how many texts we sent out. So I had to go back into the SMS broadcast, see how many you actually sent so far, not what you have in there. So that gives us kind of a ballpark of what campaigns are working better than others. So when you quickly look at the numbers, you can see the more recent leads that we pull out of the MLS are getting, getting more leads. You've sent out a little bit more. I haven't run the math on it to see, but you can kind of eyeball this and see that obviously the more recent leads we're getting a little bit more out of it. But some of this older stuff looks like some leads kicked out of it as well. So we kind of got to take a good look at that. But I'm not gonna weigh in real heavy on this because these numbers aren't super skewed to really make any difference at this point. But when we go into uh, the number of deals realtors do, this becomes quite obvious where we need to be focusing our time, right? So here is realtors are doing one deal, 1 to 2 deals, 1 to 2 deals, two deals. I had to break these up because they're so big. There's so many realtors that only do 1 to 2 deals a year. 3 deals, 4 deals, 5 deals, 6 to 7. Then when I get up here, I had to kind of put these together 8, 9, 10 because to make it kind of all even out with the number of leads in each campaign. But you can quickly see when we get the 16th, when we get up here, we're not getting a lot of leads out of this, right? So we don't really want to focus our time on that stuff. Um, but as we start to drop down, obviously, well, clearly these leads down here that uh, or these realtors down here are doing 1 to 2 deals are generating the bulk of our leads. Um, and so I ran some math on it just to kind of give us some stat numbers. But yeah, clearly the higher the number, the better. And the realtors doing one deal a year were our best, and then these were pretty significant. But then when we start getting into 5 and 6, the numbers start dropping pretty quick, right? The number of leads that we're getting to how many texts we're sending out. And up here, not even a waste of or not even really worth our time. So we might want to focus on 1 to 5 realtors. Here's even an older campaign. Didn't quite get the same math, but we weren't tracking leads as well in that before. So, anyways, that is the whole point of target marketing. So we need to really get better. With all that said, let's make sure we get better about tracking leads and tracking closings. Um, so let me pause this and then I'll jump into what I'm talking about here in a second. All right. So, anyway, so we looked at these numbers and we see that we're trying to start tracking our numbers, which is smart because if we're going to be doing multiple markets, we want to really be targeted with our marketing, right? In addition to, uh, we want to start tracking these numbers so that when we're speaking with Mike or other wholesalers, we can speak intelligently about asking. We'll know the right questions to ask, like when they're telling us to do absentee owner blasts, we can ask like out of 1,000 text messages or 1,000 phone calls, how many leads are you getting? How many closings did you get? Right, and we can start to compare that to what we've been doing with realtors. So right now, Mike's asking us like, what are you guys doing through realtor campaigns? And we're asking them what they're doing with their campaigns. We can't really compare what's better unless we start tracking our own numbers of what we're doing. It just makes us smarter and more targeted with our numbers, right? If they're only getting a lead every 5,000 texts, for example, off some campaign they're pushing, we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to even waste our time there. And so This starting to track our numbers more intelligently is going to make us way more efficient in simply how we talk to other wholesalers, how we talk to other investors. You know, I wanted to start doing this because I'm starting to form this mastermind group that's going to become nationwide. And these are the questions I want to start talking to them about. So with that said, when we're in a campaign, now you can start to see how we mark our leads is very important, right? And so we need to define what our leads mean. And then also we need to mark when we actually close them. We haven't been doing that at all. And so I'll get to that in a minute, but let's talk about marking leads. So I went ahead and added the definition of a lead right here under lead responses. And we can play with this and tailor this. We can talk about it, but I just put in there, we've got to define it and we've got to stick with it when we're doing our leads here. That'll make our numbers more consistent and better. But right here, a realtor that provides an address of an off-market property for us to look at. Boom, that's a lead, right? Not that we looked at it and it doesn't work, just that we've got a lead, right? So they send us something and we've got a chance to look at it. That's not to say if you go in here, and so that's what you'd mark as leads. But so let's say you're in the text messages and you think somebody's going to give you a lead or whatever, and you go ahead and mark it as such, that's fine. But if it turns out they don't send you an address, then go ahead and go back in and flip it back as new or something else, right? So that way it doesn't show up in our campaign as a lead, okay? So let's just be more precise about what we're tracking as leads and what we're not tracking as leads. And that will make us smarter when we're analyzing our own data and we're comparing our data to other investors. So we can really start to cherry pick out what other people are doing better compared to what we're doing. So we might discover, geez, we're only getting a deal every 2,000 or 1,500 texts from the text campaigns or from realtors. But if we do vacant absentee owners, we're getting 4 or 5 deals out of that. So where do we want to focus the majority of our attention, right? So that's what we're trying to do. It's target marketing, right? So anyways, let me see if there's one other thing I want to talk about. Let's go back in. I'm going to talk about this separately in a different video, but I want to start tracking our closed properties, and when we're dealing with realtors, I want to start setting tasks to follow up with these realtors, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But for right now, let's just talk about tracking closed. So right in the past, when we come across a lead and we start working it on our desk, we've just been, unchecking that task and just ignoring it in FreedomSoft. We haven't marked it, whether or not we closed it or whatever. I want to leave that task active until we work that lead all the way through. And if we close it, let's mark it as closed. That would be, that way we can start to see in our campaigns, how many closed sales we got out of it too, because that's really ultimately what we're after. So let's start tracking those through as well. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a separate video because it's really important. But for now, I just wanted to go through tracking leads and that we need to get smarter about how we what we mark as leads and what we don't. And again, it's okay if you mark a lead because you want it to assign you a task to follow up in some way. But if that turns out they don't provide that address, they don't hit that definition of the lead, we need to unmark it as a lead and get rid of it. But leave it as a lead forever if they do provide an address. Make sense? So we'll talk about this one-on-one too. So I'm going to shoot a separate video on how I want to move forward working with realtors.